for listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 128, a very special episode featuring Steve's wife, Chelsea. She talks about what it's like living with a gun nut, how Steve really does keep safety and security at the top of his mind, and Chelsea also shares her feelings on firearms. Thanks for listening, and as always, we hope you enjoy episode 128 of Range Minded, the Chelsea Zimmerman interview. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long and I am joined by...
Oh, I'm back in town, Steve Zimmerman.
In the flesh again. You were teaching two classes this weekend.
I had a couple classes this weekend, both basic pistol, which is a ton of fun. I love teaching new shooters.
Yeah, very cool. And we were blessed to have you here again. 2 weeks in a row? 3 weeks in a row? Two times in 3 weeks.
Something like that.
Yeah. How did your classes go?
Awesome.
Yeah.
If you're a new shooter, or new to shooting, I should say, and you're a little apprehensive about taking a basic firearms class, whether I'm the instructor or any of the other instructors here teaching, I promise you we're not judgmental, it's not scary, it's not, there's no test or shooting proficiency test at the end of the class. It's very non-judgmental. We want to get you here and trying to get you over those fears. That's really what it's about.
Starts from square one, so everybody's on the same page as soon as they start. So.
Yeah, in fact, I had last night, it was a couple, husband and wife, and he was a pretty experienced shooter. And it's difficult if you're into guns and your spouse isn't. Like trying to teach your spouse how to shoot, it doesn't work very well. So they both took the class. I think he ended up learning some stuff too.
We've talked about taking a class multiple times, or if you're an experienced shooter, taking like a basic or an intermediate class, and you pick up things the first time or the second or third time that you don't necessarily pick up the first time. So never anything wrong to do with that, especially if you have a new shooter friend or significant other. Yeah, and when I teach the class, I do a lot of safety stuff. I mean, you can imagine that's kind of my thing. If I talk about safety with, teaching all the RSOs here at the store, I hit safety pretty hard. And I think I kind of freaked one of the gals out today that was shooting before we even got to the range, because I got serious about the hazards that could happen. And it might have been a little much for her, but once we got shooting, I think she understood why I talked about the things I did. Sure. We didn't go into grab like, this is what happens with a gunshot. None of that. But just let them know that serious things can happen if you fail to maintain the rules. Well, you got to have respect for the firearms. We've talked about that pretty much every episode, I would say. So
probably.
But you brought up talking about teaching your significant other or your spouse shooting.
Yeah.
And so we have a very, very special guest with us who I would say reluctant guest.
Very reluctant.
Steve, I'll let you introduce her.
So this is my wife, Chelsea, and I had to bribe her. If you guys have ever been to town, you've been to Barbacoa.
Yeah.
I told her we'd go to Barbacoa if she'd hang out. And she's here. You can kind of hear her in the back.
She's trying.
She's super apprehensive about being on the show, and we have tried to get her here. When did we have this idea? Quite a while ago.
Over a year ago, I would say.
And finally she's here. Why don't you scoot up a little bit, babe?
Just give us a hi to start out.
Hello.
There we go.
Yes, the first one.
Fantastic. How are you today, Chelsea?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So you actually had to sit through 2 of Steve's classes, you said, right?
I did.
Is he a pretty good teacher?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Is there anything, have you taken a shooting class before at all?
No. Last time was the first time I
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So, and you've been teaching for how long, Steve?
Oh, we were talking about that today. I got my basic pistol certification. Was the year my cousin died, Lisa. So that's been 8 years, maybe, is when I got certified.
Yeah.
I didn't really start using it until 2014-ish.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
But you've had the certs to teach basic pistol, but we've talked about that. Teaching significant others is not it doesn't always go that well, because you can explain it better than I can. You've been married a while.
when we went shooting last time at the range, how did that, I was trying to show you some stuff. If you remember, it was one of our anniversaries.
That's been quite a while ago.
It was a while ago. What was that like, me trying to show you how to do things?
Personally, I don't like being told what to do. And it's worse coming from your spouse, but
it's hard, huh?
It is.
And that's why it was nice to have couples come in, because really what happened, because there was another couple, I was talking about, I don't remember what I was talking about, but she looked at her husband And I could see her whisper, and then she said, he was telling me the exact same thing. See?
So it's right. But it's different. Like Chelsea said, it's different coming from somebody else, where it's like if your significant other is telling you, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this. They know how to push your buttons, and they sometimes don't even know that those buttons are there.
Well, and
Chelsea's nodding her head, agreeing with it.
Yes.
And it's not like we're trying to push those buttons, but I think just having a more intimate relationship, it's maybe we perceive that those buttons are getting pushed when really, like, I was not trying to lecture her on how to do something. I was trying to teach her, but it just didn't work.
Did you learn anything in Steve's classes? Because now you took the class twice.
Right. I didn't do the shooting portion.
Right.
But I did. I got more out of it today than yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, doing a back-to-back class, but...
Yeah. And Steve's all right at teaching?
Yeah, actually.
Because we're both...
Look at her. Yeah, surpringly, he does
right?
okay.
No. Like most people, I don't even know what word I'm looking for. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
He's understanding. He's
but we...
detail-oriented, maybe?
Well, yeah, he is detail-oriented, but I think we critique ourselves way too much.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm the same way, but he kept asking me, what can I do different? What can I do different? But I don't know. He's done it for so long, and I've never seen him or been in a class, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Where this is the first couple classes you really experienced.
Depending on if it's a different class, there might be something different, but.
Yeah. Were you nervous having your wife, real audience?
No.
No?
No, when I first started teaching, I was nervous all the time. I probably wouldn't wanted her in the class. Mm-hmm. But between church stuff and doing this, I've had a lot of opportunities to get in front of a lot of people and teach, and it really doesn't make me scared anymore.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, because it's a tough thing to do. You can know all the material. I think Sarah talked about it the last time. I don't know if you met Sarah Van Acker.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Fantastic. Love Sarah.
Great.
She's a great instructor.
She talked about how she knows all that stuff back to front, upside down, all the wealth of knowledge of all kinds of firearms. But when she got in front of the class for the first time, she got nervous. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, everybody's going to know that I'm like a fraud. This is my first time." And
it is kind of daunting. Think about anything you've done for the first time, your real day job. You work in radio.
Yep.
Think about the first time you had to put stuff together, actually run a mixer,
or crack a mic on the air. Yeah,
it's scary.
It's daunting. There's a lot of ways you don't even know how many ways you can mess up. You know, so. And
I found a lot of ways to mess up, but that's how we get better, honestly.
Exactly. So you didn't do the shooting portion, which is okay. But so are you into firearms at all, or?
I'm not against firearms. It's not something I would do on a daily basis.
So you're not really passionate about them, really?
No, not like Steve is.
Right.
So what's kind of funny is her dad, my father-in-law. Mm-hmm. He's a collector.
Okay.
And he's got more guns than I do. Maybe my mother-in-law doesn't know that. Actually, she has no idea how many guns.
I don't think any of us know how many guns he has.
But he's a collector, so I think even Chelsea's brother, he's not, he likes guns, but he doesn't really buy guns.
Right, he's not a fanatic.
So.
Like you are.
Fanatical about it, that's true. So I think it helps me and him kind of, I wouldn't say bond, but
common ground.
We definitely. We understand the firearms. He's way into the old stuff where I'm a black plastic kind of thing.
Right. So Chelsea, that means you've probably been around firearms basically your whole life, right?
I have been, yeah. But when I was younger, we would go shooting here and there.
Yeah.
But I can only remember a handful of times.
Yeah.
But he was a big hunter when I was growing up.
Did you ever go hunting with him at all?
No,
or no?
That's
not
one
your
thing
style?
I don't think that I would ever do.
Yeah, I've been on the fence about hunting for a while. I respect people immensely who do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. I don't know.
And for me, I'm all for hunting. It doesn't bother me at all. I just don't do it because I know I'm going to enjoy it.
And then you're going to need the gear that goes with it.
It's expensive.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't care. You hear people say, well, it's cheaper than growing a cow, raising a cow, and whatever. By the time you get the fuel and you're scouting and you're going back 3 or 4 times to check your camera.
Yep.
And then you got to dress it out and
process it, all that jazz.
I can buy a half a beef for the same price as an elk or less.
And there's no guarantee when you go hunting either.
No.
You never know.
So true.
You come up with nothing. It's like fishing. You may be able to go out and spend 2 days fishing, but not going to necessarily catch anything. So, but you never wanted to carry a firearm or learn about self-defense or anything?
No, it's never crossed my mind.
No, that's not accurate.
Oh.
I remember one time. So she has a professional career, and she sits in an office and deals with a lot of people. And one particular guy came in, and he gave her the creeps. Like, he was a creep. And I don't know, he was saying lots of weird things to you and stuff. And she came home, like, you could tell she was kind of disheveled about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we started talking about carrying a gun and that kind of thing. And we actually went to Sportsman's Warehouse and looked for a gun for you. You don't remember that?
I don't remember that.
The problem.
I really don't.
Let me back up a little bit too and say that's okay. Like, there's no judgments here. That's totally cool. Because you've got plenty of guns at home anyway.
Right. Yeah, probably
that haven't been lost in a boating accident. But
yeah, I could dig them back up. If I need to.
I've talked about that. I think I've said it at least a few times, and we've talked about it. Is that sometimes you just you don't want to have that responsibility, or you don't think about it. And
Nick's even said that too. Yeah. Like, there's days he doesn't feel like he's willing to make that commitment.
Right. So no judgments here. Totally cool. But how did you guys been married a while? I think 20 years now, right?
Just 20 years.
Congratulations, that's a rare thing these days. So that's awesome.
Does seem kind of weird and eclectic.
But so it probably when you first met and started dating and stuff, you probably weren't surprised when Steve told you he was into guns, or
it took a while. I mean, he had a gun, one or two.
When we first got married, I only had one.
Yeah, I was gonna say 1 or 2 guns, but over the years, it's just accumulated and.
1 or 2.
Does it take up space all throughout the house, or does he have his own little spot?
Oh no, we have many safes.
Yeah. And
there's some that I don't think we even have at home that I don't even know about.
Maybe.
Is that like, how do you feel? Like, are you kind of neutral about that, or like, is it his own thing, or is it like,
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up with it probably made it a lot easier. Letting him do it, but
yeah,
it's his interest, it's his hobby, so it's no different than me. I mean, I look at it as my girls and I like to go shopping, so I guess he can.
And I like to shop too. Man, that Jeep is loud outside.
Sure is, yeah.
His shopping's just a little more expensive.
Depending.
At times.
See, but everybody's got their hobbies and something they like to do.
True.
So, what about, was there any point where it was like, have you ever told him, okay, I think you have enough guns?
Oh, I tell him all the time he has too many guns.
Yeah, whether or not he listens is one thing or whatever.
No, he continues to buy.
Well, because I know what I have, so I know there's always room for one more.
N+1 is the thing. That's how many guns you need, is however many plus one.
Always been told you can never have enough.
Yeah, if you know how many you have, you don't have enough.
You don't have enough.
Yeah. That's funny, actually. You know what? I was going through some stuff this morning looking for something, and I found a lower that I forgot I had.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, this is great. I forgot about this. I guess I got to build one more. Yep. So, but hey, that's a good thing, though, too, that, there's plenty of safes around. I mean, there's probably a non-zero amount of people who maybe have just a handful of guns, but maybe they're all out, or they're on the top of the, the top of the closet or something.
Closet.
Yeah.
We actually talked about this in the class last night.
Right.
Somebody asked about how to store the
safe
gun,
storage. Yeah.
And so we started talking about safe, and honestly and very sincerely, buying my first safe gave me a peace of mind that I couldn't explain. I don't know how to explain it. I had places to lock up my guns, but not really securely.
Right.
But once I bought that first safe, it was, man, it was night and day.
Yeah, no, I feel you. That's just, you have that space, that it's there, it's protected from disaster and
theft or
unauthorized users. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I've always thought about, Steve, is that safety and security is always his top priority.
It
Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
How so? Can you
I don't know. I mean, safety's always been his number one thing, taking care, making sure everybody is safe. Mm-hmm. He's the type that usually looks after others before himself.
Mm-hmm. I try. It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, so I guess safe, I don't know. I'll explain that one.
you just trust him.
Yeah.
I mean, after 20 years of
I was
marriage.
gonna say after 20 years, there better be some trust there, right?
Yeah. Have you ever ended up finding a gun or somewhere where it's oh, that's there, maybe surprise you, not in an unsafe way, but maybe he was moving stuff around, or they're just, because I just imagine your house is just lousy with guns everywhere.
No, he's usually pretty good. Most everything is locked up. There's been a time or two that I've seen one maybe at the top of the closet that he may have just forgot to put in the safe, or
yeah.
Well, and I'll be honest,
normally he doesn't leave them on the bed. If something gets left out, it's usually in the top of the closet.
Gotcha.
Or stored under the bed.
Gotcha.
So sometimes if we get home after a long date or something, whatever, and I'm carrying I don't open the safe to put it away.
Sure. Well, if you're home and all that stuff, it's right there. It's accessible.
Yeah, we make sure they're put away before we leave so the kids don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't
And
able
it's
to
not
get
so
to
much our kids that I worry about. It's their friends. I don't know what they know.
Yeah. That's just the safe, smart way to do it. So, let's talk about carrying for a minute, because obviously, that's a big part of firearm ownership that, does or doesn't have to be a part of it. But I think for us, being concealed carriers, did Steve, was he carrying before you guys met, or did that start after you guys got together, or do you not know?
Honestly, I don't. I mean,
don't
pistol
remember?
wise,
I remember.
Did you carry?
It was when I started working in Salt Lake.
I remember when he went and got his concealed permit,
Okay.
but whether he carried before
Yeah,
that
I
or not, I don't know that he
didn't-
really did.
Yeah.
I try to follow the rules. I didn't carry before that.
What did you think when he first told you that he was going to start doing that?
I don't think I thought I don't think I thought twice about it.
Yeah.
Then I probably thought it was more of a safety thing.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's kind of, sometimes gets annoying because it's like, oh, I got to grab this gun. I got to grab that gun.
Got to decide which gun goes with.
No, there's like 2 or 3 that go with us anytime we go somewhere.
Right. Yeah, that's just more of it just becomes kind of part of your lifestyle though, right? Like you don't even think about it now.
Yeah, and I try to carry everywhere I am able to.
Yeah.
And I can understand sometimes it really annoys you, but it's not about me being macho or cool. It really is about keeping everybody else in line. So,
Yeah. Do you now just a little bit? I'm curious. What kind of specifically is annoying? Like it just takes up a bunch of time, or like?
Sometimes it does. Like we're all ready to leave and he's like, oh, I got to grab this gun.
I'll match my shoes.
To conceal carry, that's one, that's fine. But sometimes he has to throw in like the AR. Or, I'm like,
Yeah,
you already have one.
She's talking like if we're driving
Like a road trip, right?
Yeah.
Right. If we're going on a road trip, he'll take 2 or 3.
a day trip.
Just,
I don't know what's gonna happen.
that's true.
Now, do you think he's paranoid, or you just kind of let it
Sometimes
go?
I think he's paranoid.
Yeah.
And maybe I am a little bit, but anymore with what's going on, you just never know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Nowadays it's a little nuts, but thankfully we live in Idaho, so
That's true.
It's a little more calm, I guess,
Right.
around here. So, are you an Idaho native then? Or?
Yep, born and raised here.
Yeah, so it's the gun thing. That's probably why it
Yeah.
doesn't bother you. Do you have any girlfriends that whose husbands are into guns or whatever, and they complain about it or anything? Because I imagine some people are probably
No, I don't think
uncomfortable
so.
with it.
I think
or-
a lot of people that I know that their husbands are gun fanatics. They're usually, I don't know. The ones I know have gone and got their own concealed permits and they carry too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking about our neighbors.
I can think of a couple off the top of my head that have gone and got their own concealed because they've enjoyed doing it. Their
Yeah.
husbands, they married into it, and so they decided, oh, I'll try it.
Yeah, and
They enjoy it.
concealed carry never's kind of appealed to you, or?
No, I've never thought about going and getting my own. He's
That's okay,
tried,
yeah.
but I'm like, that's just one more thing I have to carry.
And
Yeah.
I wish she would.
And as a mom, you carry enough as it is.
Yeah, and you've done it 4 times over, so
Right.
you've had to, the drill that much, and having one more thing.
One more thing in that bag or purse
Yeah.
is just too much sometimes.
I really wish she would just get it taken care of, even if she doesn't carry. I wish she just would have that option, but I'm not going to force her into it either.
Yeah, you can't force anybody to do that. It's something that I think even just taking, like what Nick said about a couple episodes ago, he was talking about how sometimes people just put it off, that they want to do it or want to take a class or whatever. They put it off because even just signing up for the class commits you to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a discomfort zone. And you seem like you know yourself really well. You're like, nope, I'm just not a thing I want to do. And I'm totally okay with that. And I think that's great that you know that. But I think some people are curious, but then don't want to get outside of their comfort zone. But then signing up for something and putting money down and all that commits you to do. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have to go and be uncomfortable and admit that I don't know stuff and all that. So you can't really push somebody into that discomfort zone. They have to want to go there, I think. And that's with firearms, concealed carry, or any kind of training, really. So
Yeah, that's probably one thing that and I can only think hypothetically, I guess, but or anecdotally, maybe even better is a way to put it. But I think that's a lot of thing that the people have to get over is just their fear. They have to make that commitment. And we saw some of the ladies today that shot in the class that were scared to death.
mm-hmm, really,
But there were 3 of them that were together. They took it as a group, and which helps a lot when they have that that bond between the three of them to help them get it through the scary parts.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say as a new shooter too, or if you are an experienced shooter and you want to like have, like we've talked about, because there's 5 million new gun owners right now, like between like March and, right, is it March and now it's like been 5 or 6 million, I think.
January. Either way, there's 5 million new gun owners up to this point.
And so one of the things that we've talked about a bunch is that, how do you get those people more acclimated and more comfortable and confident with firearms? And, I think if you have a new shooter in your life and you maybe have the means to do it, take a class with them, even if it's a basic class, like you said, that husband and wife came in, and make somebody feel a lot more comfortable, and you don't necessarily have to give them any instruction because you're paying somebody to do that.
Right.
But then you can be kind of supportive, and then you can have that experience together too. And chances are you'll more than likely learn something as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, hopefully. Hopefully.
So let's talk about kids for a second, because you said you are a mom.
Right.
And you've got 4 kids, one of which I met. He's a fantastic boy.
Brigham, yeah.
Yep, he's a great kid.
He is super cool. He's almost an adult now,
He's
right?
He is. He turned 18.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Man.
We just started doing jiu-jitsu, and we had to fill out the paperwork, and I just handed it, here, you have to fill this out.
You're an adult. And is he the oldest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously all 4 kids have grown up around firearms. How do you kind of, and you guys can answer this together or whatever, but how do you kind of balance that accessibility and that safety with the kids? Because you mentioned earlier, Chelsea, that you always lock them up, because of the kids or the kids' friends or whatever. How do you kind of balance that, like, accessibility and that safety?
Well, want me to go?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
So we already talked about safety is high on my list. Like, it's the very top. Brigham, he's been around guns since before he could walk and talk. I've taken him shooting when he was in his car seat. No, he didn't shoot, right? Like we
Bummer.
We kept him in a safe place where it was a little quieter inside the car while we shot. And maybe, as each kid, that it got a little easier or a little less strict or stringent. Not strict, but less stringent. Where I'm kind of easing up on.
Because you kind of know you're into it. Yeah.
But all of them know that they can't just go touch my guns. Like, right now, there's no firearm in my house that any of them can just get.
Right.
Which is important. But I think they all understand. Bentley, our youngest, I think she understands, like, or has a concept of the dangers of it. Like, she's never really seen what a firearm can do. I've taken her shooting. She loves to shoot 22s.
That's cool. Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you think?
That's okay. Yeah. Have you had any discussions, like, from, like, as a mother, about firearms with your kids, like, as they've grown up, or have you and Steve kind of had conversations together?
We've had conversations together a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
But
and sometimes I'll just throw it out. Hey, what are the 4 fundamental firearm safety rules? Like, I'll just throw it out in the middle of nowhere, and they all actually get it. Honestly,
a lot of them can do it.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's smart, though, to have those conversations so you guys are on the same page. You really, as a family unit.
Yeah.
And I talked about being less stringent. So really, our son, he's heard me kind of lecture more about it. Like, what do you do when you see a gun outside? Like, well, if it's somebody else's gun, you don't touch it. You find an adult, and you leave it. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe I've kind of slacked off on that as a detriment. Maybe I shouldn't have eased up on that a little bit. And I right now I can't say I know for a fact that our youngest would never touch it. But honestly, I guess I don't. Maybe I just need to get right back on that regimen.
And so we've told her that before, but not as much as we have the older ones.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a little, I shouldn't say lenient, but you just get more relaxed.
Lazy.
And lazy is the more kids you have and the older they get.
Yeah, well, what's that? It's the old joke about the firstborn is always, like, coddled and has everything. And
he's the experiment.
There's always, and then the second one gets, like, a blanket and a pillow, and that's about it. And then you're on your own, basically.
And that is really true. And if you've had, some of our listeners, I'm sure, have more than one child, they can understand how that really works as a parent. First one, you're concerned that it's going to die any second, and then after that, you're like, oh, well,
You get a little.
more relaxed.
It's more relaxed.
It's more relaxed.
Yeah, the more you have.
So obviously you're cool with the kids shooting, obviously under supervision.
Oh,
but-
totally. I
Yeah.
mean, anytime they want to go shooting, we let them go.
Yeah.
I mean, or if he's going, he'll ask any of them that want to go.
Yeah. Do you guys ever go as like a family, like all together? And
Once in a while.
we did on the 4th of July,
We went on
yeah.
the 4th of July.
That's
and
cool.
We all shot.
you took that, and you have that photo, the family photo, right?
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
family-
And we just got another one a couple weeks ago.
Same style.
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah.
This time, she has an idea of how many ARs I have put together now.
Yeah, this time we all held ARs
There
instead
we
of
go.
just a different type of
There we go.
firearm.
And good for. So do you? Is there any kind of shooting that you like? Do you like shooting rifles or shotguns or handguns or 22s?
Honestly, my favorite is the AR-15.
Really?
Yeah.
Check that out.
I prefer that over the pistol, the handgun.
Why is that?
I think for me, it was easier to control
Mm-hmm.
versus the handgun in my, a smaller gun in my hand.
Yeah.
Shotguns are fine, but I don't know. The AR was just fun to blow things up.
Okay, so this is important.
cool,
It's
man.
important
That's
to
cool.
understand. So,
Yeah.
like, if we have some listeners that have never shot ARs and think they are loud, and
They can
it's,
be.
it's a powerful gun. But you touched on something that said so it's easy to handle. The recoil is pretty minimal. It's an easy firearm to function, and that's why they're so fun to shoot. Is because it didn't kick your butt.
No, it didn't.
Were you surprised by that?
He thought it would kick and hurt me. It may have kicked a little bit, but
Well, I wasn't sure what you were going to react.
yeah, I mean, I didn't know what my reaction was going to be either.
Sure.
But
Yeah. It's
I did enjoy shooting
you're
the AR.
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It helps
I
that we
was.
had some tannerite out there for
Yeah,
it.
that
too,
was
so you
fun.
know.
Oh, there we go. See, yeah, that's the other thing is you got to make the setup fun. Where the payoff, like, man, I could do that. That's so cool. It's like different classes can kind of push you to do that. Like, oh man, I didn't know I could actually draw from a holster and do reloads and move and all this kind of stuff. Or it was what competition we did. It was like 2 years ago, and I think Ricky had set up a thing where it was a candle. And a lit candle, like I think 5 or 10 yards away, on top of a table, and you had to shoot the flame out. And I was like, how the hell are we going to do this? Like, I'm not that good of a shot, blah, blah, blah. But I think I had 2 or 3 shots, and I sat down and I just steadied myself and readied and just went boom. And it went out, and I'm like, so it's fun to do those things is like, and if you're trying to get new shooters out there, make it fun, make it enjoyable, because shooting paper is always fun, but if you can go outside, I
Some
think
kind of a reactionary
Yeah, that's what I was
target.
going to say. I
Yeah.
mean, shooting just at a target doesn't get me excited. It makes some other people, but shooting that tannerite, that's what made it fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I need to get some. I don't have any steel
Or
targets or anything.
or
but-
something else that you can shoot at. I mean, not just clays, but
yeah, I mean, it's fun to
other
set clay
different target
pigeons up
and
against the
things.
backstop and shoot at those too.
yeah.
Because then you can actually see what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit more. Have you shot indoors at all or no?
Yeah. Not at this range. The range in Idaho Falls, I shot a couple times.
Do you like shooting inside or outside more? Or is it 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other?
It might be 50-50 with as little as I've shot inside.
Sure.
We don't
Yeah.
get enough shooting in. For
I don't do
it.
a lot of indoor, and I've only done a few times.
Yeah,
So-
I actually like shooting outside more. I mean,
It's quieter.
Yeah, that's why I like it, and just more space, and you're outside with nature a little bit, and usually a little bit more spaced out. There's if I had to shoot indoors, obviously we have like the best place in the world to do that.
Right.
But shooting outdoors is a lot more fun. You can make more of a day out of it. I feel
And you
like,
can set up more dynamic targets or a way to set up different things, especially if you have reactive targets, tannerite or steel that you can actually hear when you hit. You can't really do that in here, but outside you can set up something that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and one thing, like our buddy Paul Harrell on YouTube,
Paul.
he sets up a lot of pop bottles, soda bottles. I mean, those are cheap. You
I
can
said
get
that's what
those
my
and-
dad used to do when I was
Hickok
growing up.
45.
Yeah.
Yeah, or cans or whatever. I mean,
Right.
so even if you don't have tannerite or something, you can get something relatively inexpensive or something that maybe is lying around your house.
And honestly, if you can find a place where they're going to throw out fruit, like become friends with a produce department, fruit is a lot of fun to
shoot
shoot.
watermelons.
And so is a cheap target is go to Walmart and get the cheesy puffball things. You can buy them in the big container.
Oh yeah.
And with a 22, those things just explode.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I bought some, but the kids ate them all instead of us shooting. They ate every one of them.
So, do you, let's go back to concealed carry a little bit. Do you ever, obviously, sometimes Steve has to find the right gun to match his tie and you're late for something, but do you feel safer, you think, that going out? Like, do you ever like worry about safety or like your personal safety when you're out and about with Steve?
Not when I'm with him, because
Yeah.
he's usually, because he's not usually, I mean,
Always.
always is probably a better way to say it.
Does it give you a peace of mind that you think?
It does now. I mean, at first I was a little apprehensive about it, but now it's just an everyday thing. So
Can I ask why you were a little apprehensive at first?
I just wasn't used to it. I mean, my dad did carry, but
Only because of his job.
because of his job. I mean, he
okay.
was sheriff for 40 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, but he was in law enforcement for
A long time.
long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was always used to somebody always carrying, but I think being with him carrying the first time, it took me back because I just wasn't used to it.
Just a different part of life.
It was a different part.
Yeah.
You know, as a kid, I didn't think anything of it, but
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when it's, and I think we talked about this before about it's like where you're raised and what your life situation is. It's not necessarily like we've talked about the gun is not a good or a bad thing. It's who it's in the hands of, you know?
Yeah.
right.
And I got a question for you, and maybe this still goes for carrying, you know, in restaurants or whatever. Do you notice? Do I act differently when we sit down at restaurants, or
Yes,
you know?
he has to face the door.
Oh,
he has
sure.
to know where all exits are.
Yeah.
And he's taught my kids that too. Like our oldest Brigham, he'll look for exits so they know, like, if anything happens, they know exactly where to take the family. Or they can have. He's got to be. I guess, is it facing out, like facing to the exit that you sit?
Well, I prefer to face the front door because usually that's where I think.
Yeah. So if he
scary
does
things are
see
gonna
anything, then he's got that.
At least puts me in perspective of that direction is usually where
Right.
I'm going.
Situationally aware.
Right. That's yeah.
Yeah, and that's got to be. I mean, you don't have to be a concealed carrier to be situationally
No, you should do
aware.
that all the time. Does it? Do you think that makes me seem weird or paranoid or anything?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I don't think anybody else would notice that that's what you're doing.
I mean, I'm not like overtly like.
No.
Not scanning the room.
Yeah,
like,
I try to stay the gray man when I do that. I don't want people to. I'm not attracting attention by. any
Yeah.
means.
Right.
Has that rubbed off on you at all? Do you find yourself looking for just
I
subconsciously?
think
even?
sometimes
Yeah.
a little bit subconsciously I do. I'm so used to it now. And then, like I said, our son does it too. And they always, or if we go somewhere, he's like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
do you know where all the exits are? And so some of my kids have even gotten to the point where they do the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brigham does it at school.
That's smart. I think that's smart for kids anyway. Like I said, without concealed carrying, just to be, because I mean, us adults are on our phones or in our own little world so much anyway. You know, I can only imagine what kids, especially teenagers, I mean, they're probably glued to the phone. I'm not around kids, so I don't really know, but
They're glued to the phone.
so, but knowing that they have those skills, you have to be, I'm sure, a little more confident that they can take care of themselves out into the world.
It does make me feel better
Yeah.
that when I'm not with them, especially like at school and these days, I think they could defend themselves because they know the things that they need to do because they've been taught by Steve.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And that's got to be some nice peace of mind.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Yeah. Well, cool. You have any other questions, Steve? I think that's pretty much all I got. That's all I wanted to cover.
I don't. How many guns do I have?
I couldn't even begin to count.
How many guns have you bought since you got into town is the big question.
None this week.
None this weekend.
Not so far.
And we close in another 6 hours, so I'm good.
You're not like jonesing right now? You're not feeling withdrawal symptoms?
I did buy some ammo. We had some 5.7. I bought some.
Oh, yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. So have you ever actually been like, and we don't have to talk about it if we don't want to. I don't want to dig up old wounds, but have you ever been actually actively mad at Steve for like, I can't believe you bought this and blah, 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 or why do you need that? You know, have you ever had any of that kind of like reaction?
I don't remember.
I don't
anything.
know that I've gotten angry. I do. I'm bad. I check the bank
Annoyed,
account quite
maybe?
often. Yes,
Oh,
annoyed
so there we
probably.
go.
So I
Yeah.
see when a purchase has been through.
I can't.
I'm like,
been
what
made.
did you buy this weekend?
Yeah. So it's more like an eye roll, really, rather
Pretty
than
much.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm not.
gotcha.
I don't try to hide it, like, because I know she's gonna see it anyways. But I try to prolong the agony sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, gun guys get crafty. So I sold this one or traded this one, or I've had that for months. I don't know what you're talking about.
I get that. But
There's a guy that might have been a meme or something where every time he'd buy a gun, he'd bring it back in the exact same old case that he had before.
Smart.
So his wife wouldn't know that it was a different gun.
Smart. What's that joke is, I hope if I die, then my wife doesn't sell the guns for what I told her I paid for him.
Yeah. I even know of stores that would manipulate receipts so they could show
seriously?
their wife. Yeah.
Man. So what would you say to, let's say you've got like a young couple, like a newlywed, or what would you say to a wife whose husband maybe wants to get into firearms, having so much experience around it yourself, and somebody comes up to you and says, oh, so and so, my husband wants to get into guns, blah blah, I know you have experience with this, do you have any advice?
I would tell him to go take a class or go talk to somebody at a gun store. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't have any advice. I couldn't give him any information myself because I don't have that big a background on guns.
Sure, but
I know
just
that much
being
information.
around him a bunch, yeah.
Being around them is different than knowing how they function,
Sure.
about the functioning and stuff about them. But more just talk to somebody that would have a better background. Mm-hmm. So either a gun store or find a class that they could take.
Cool.
Yeah, not to pat myself on the back, but there's neighbors that ask me questions on them all the time.
I feel you.
They know what I do, so.
It happens to most of us, I would say. So
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all the questions I got. Chelsea, thanks so much for playing along.
Thea wasn't that. She was so not excited to be on the show.
Now you're really going to enjoy your barbacoa. But I have a question for you, Steve.
Yeah.
Do we want to ask her the 5 questions?
Yeah, I've been toying with this idea. Will you answer 5 questions for me?
It depends on what they are.
Well,
I'll take that as a yes.
So at the end of every interview we do with a guest,
Yeah, he has the 5 questions.
Oh, so you do know the 5 questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what those 5 questions
I don't.
are?
I should listen more often and pay attention is what I should have done.
But you do listen to the podcast?
Once in a while.
Once in a great while. Steve, sounds okay to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that
so.
sounds fine.
For some reason, I can't find them now.
Oh, that's too bad.
Has there been an episode that you've really enjoyed, maybe? One of your favorites? Or?
No, I mean, I haven't listened to all of them.
Well, there's too many to listen
Right.
to all of them.
I used to listen to it. Well, I guess he would have them pulled up right after
Oh,
you guys
okay.
would.
Yeah.
But I haven't listened to him for a while.
Gotcha.
Why is it
That's okay.
There's people that ask all the time, and he's always telling them, oh, I have a podcast, and we have a neighbor that just started listening to it, and he really enjoys listening to you
That's
guys.
great news. Yeah, we try to get more people. And actually, I'll take that opportunity now to say that if you haven't shared Range Minded with your friends and family and everybody you know, you should do that. And also leave a comment and Facebook comments and a rating wherever you get your podcast from, because it does help us out. And maybe Steve will have his 5 questions somewhere here.
I wonder if it got deleted. I can't find them.
Maybe you're getting lucky, Chelsea. You may skip out on them.
For some reason, I can't find my question list. It's been really frustrating. I must have popped off my phone. So we're going to try to do it as best we can off of memory.
So it might be 4 questions.
Might be 4 questions. Okay. What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear,
What would you say your biggest fear is?
other than speaking,
You can go with that.
I might have to say speaking.
I don't think we actually had anybody say that yet.
No, we had somebody say sharks.
Oh, nah. Never been around him, so I don't.
But public speaking?
I'm not a lover of public speaking.
Have you ever had to get up in front of a crowd?
Yep.
And you've just had to tough it out?
Yeah, it didn't go so well, but
Whatever.
It happens. It happens. That's a good answer, though. See, there's no wrong answers to these.
There is no wrong answers.
So how about I'll ask the next one?
Okay.
Oh,
So
gosh.
if you just won the lottery, and we're talking like an obscene amount of money, like $1 billion, what would you spend it on and why? Besides
it's
a
funny.
big
My
shopping
daughter and I
spree.
were talking about this the other day. I think I would, first of all, get us out of debt,
Mm-hmm.
and then put money aside for each of my kids for college and
Yeah.
for when they're older. And then just help family members if I could.
Cool. And a big shopping spree, I'm sure, at some point or another.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to get something for yourself.
Yes, I
you know.
would.
What do you think is your biggest accomplishment?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever thought about that.
That's okay. Besides meeting Steve.
wow, I'm right here. And she just like glanced over me.
I don't know. I'm not quite sure on that one.
That's okay. Why don't you ask the last one then, Steve?
Yeah, since I can't find my notes.
That's okay.
So mad. So this is my favorite question. I love asking people this question.
Do you know the answer to this question or no? Really?
No. And there's all sorts. I know how I would answer it, but I don't know how other people answer it. That's why I think it's cool. You ready? Who would you consider your hero?
My hero, first off, would be my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can see why.
Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty cool guy.
He is a great dude.
And he's been around, seen some stuff, gun collector. Yeah. So cool. Well,
Sorry. She's
okay.
crying.
oh, that's that we'll
that one got me.
We'll call it on that one. So Chelsea, thank you so much for putting up with us and playing
See,
along.
it was not that bad. We only made you cry.
We made Jared cry too, so it's fine.
Oh, I guess we did.
made the owner of the store cry, so it's.
I think I heard that one, actually. I did listen to that podcast.
That was actually a great one. We might have to re-release that one because Jared's. Have you met Jared?
I have
Oh, yeah.
many times. Yeah, Jared's a great guy.
He's insanely cool.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because he's got that sign. You know, he's a urologist?
Urologist.
Yeah. And my fiance and I were driving down Eagle Road, and she saw a sign for his office and said, like, you know, I don't remember. It was something like kind of funny, whatever. And she said it out loud, and she goes, Dr. Jared Heiner, huh? And I go, you know who that is, right? She goes, no. I go, that's the owner of the gun store. She goes, really? I go, yeah, he's a urologist. So, but yeah, we did that. We got him in the fields too. So,
Well, he is probably one of the most loving, like genuinely cares for everybody person I've ever
oh
met.
yeah.
Like that guy is just full of charity.
Yeah, we'll have to re-release that one like randomly for fun. I think that'd be great. So anyway, hey, Chelsea, thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Your barbacoa steak is going to be phenomenal. Get the guacamole. Make sure you spend all Steve's and I guess your money too. But
my money, too.
make sure that Steve spends a lot of money on you. And we appreciate it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
See, it wasn't so bad.
All right. If you have any questions or anything, let us know. Podcast@iishooting.com or Facebook and Instagram @rangeminded. And we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, you guys be safe.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.